Buenos dias and welcome back to yet another edition of the Metropolitan Culture Corner. This is our first edition of 2024. Happy New Year, and I hope that your year is off to an incredible start. I mean, I know it's only been going on for a few hours at this point. In this first interview of the new year, we go behind the scenes with visual artist and jewelry maker Stéphanie Barbié. Born in Agen, France, she has lived in Barcelona since 2004 and opened her current studio space in Gràcia in 2016. A jeweler by training, but a lover of interior design and art forever, she decided to combine her two passions by creating jewelry that goes beyond the limits of the body, unique decorations for the interior spaces where we spend much of our lives. Both her works of art intended for your walls, as well as those intended for your fingers, wrists, necks, and ears, were created with beauty, functionality, and sustainability in mind, by employing special materials created by recycling old books and other objects that she finds on the streets of Barcelona. Whether it's a custom wedding ring or a wall hanging, each of her pieces is one of a kind and is made with the idea of bringing light, color, and an extra touch of happiness to the everyday lives of her customers. She was also part of the artistic group coordinated by Silvia Valls called Joyas Sensacionales for approximately 12 years. This group's expositions had a significant impact on the world of jewelry making in the city of Barcelona. Please welcome Stéphanie Barbié to the Metropolitan Culture Corner.
Since the beginning, I think I make jewels for your home more than just decoration object. For me, it's the same. I think how you decorate your home is a way of showing yourself. Also, it can make you feel good in the morning. You wake up and it's nice in your house, and then it's almost the same as wearing some kind of clothes and put on some makeup and put some jewelry to go out. You do it because it makes you feel good. And I believe that your environment, your house, is also a way of making you feel good. And I always had this connection with decoration because my father is an architect. Actually, I made 1 year of architecture. I always grew up with my grandmother. She was amazing with her house, and she always was changing the furniture around, and not only for people when they are coming around, it's more for you. So I hope with my work can give that to people also, to have a little bit more fun and a little bit of shiny thing in their house, so their life is a little bit more shiny also.
So hello and welcome to the Metropolitan Culture Corner. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me today. I'm very happy to be here.
And I see behind you one of your artworks, is that right?
Yes, exactly.
You studied history and anthropology and then ended up studying art and design and jewelry making at the Escuela Massana here in Barcelona. So what led you to study there? Why not go somewhere else in the world?
Well, I studied history in Bordeaux in France and anthropology in the Réunion Island, close to Madagascar. And then I traveled a little bit for Australia for a year and Indonesia and stuff. And then I came back to France and I had my first kid. I wanted to go back to travel, at least live outside of my country. I really enjoy the feeling of living in a place that you don't really belong, even if you're there for a long time. It's not completely yours, and I really enjoy this feeling. So I was looking for some place, and Barcelona, it's not very far from my parents, so for my child it was good, and so we came to Barcelona. I was working already on market, selling things I was making, and being in Barcelona, I didn't have a car, so I needed to make it smaller. So I started to make jewels, and then I started to like it, and then I went to study jewelry in Massana Art School. It was really focused on the artistic part more than the technical part, so that's why I end up here.
So you started making jewelry because it was easier to transport it around Barcelona than your other art pieces.
Yeah, exactly. Because before that, I was making like mirror or furniture or bigger art. So yeah, without any car, I needed to make it smaller and be able to go and make the market.
And when you said that it focused more on the artistic part than the technical part, what's the difference?
We are talking about jewels. So normally when you think of jewelry, you always think of little earrings and stuff like that, you know. So, but in Massana schools, Escuela Massana is very famous for artistic jewelry, contemporary jewelry, which are really pieces of art art, small pieces of art that you can wear. In this way, they don't focus so much on the craft of making jewels, but more on the concept. You can use all the materials you want to use while making more pieces like little piece of painting or like flat with layers and stuff. And there is the other part who work more like if it was little sculptures, and I was more into that. My pieces, my art has always been like little sculptures, and very soon I went to movement, so all my brooch or necklace were with some kind of movement inside, so while you were wearing it, it was always changing and adapting to the movement of the people wearing it. And I really enjoy the connection between the body and the jewels.
When did you start making jewelry out of the pages of books and all these other found materials? I mean, was this a creative inspiration, or did you want to try to make your work have less of an environmental impact?
So I studied in Masana, and actually when I studied in Masana, I was pregnant with my second child, so I worked until the end, until I gave birth, and then I had the baby, and my teacher, she just opened up some classes in a workshop in Gràcia, a new workshop, and she told me, if you want to, we've got this class every week, you can come and be with us. So I start with her. So we did that like if it was really a course during 6 months, and we made an exhibition at the end of the 6 months, and actually people were so impressed. They really liked the idea. So this class just changed into a group of jewelers. This teacher, she was giving us some concept every 2 or 3 months, and we all had to work and make some pieces for this concept, like 2 or 3 pieces. And then we had a day where we were sharing what we did all together. And then we made exhibition, and I did that for 12 years or something like that. So it was every 3 months working on a new project, a new concept. In one of those work I had to do, I started to work with book pages and with resin, because that's my first material. I was already working with resin before starting jewelry, and I was teaching how to work with resin. So I started to make with the book and the resin and make some pieces with that, and it all started there. So yes, it was not really because of thinking of the low impact of the environment, but then it started to make sense more and more. And because I always get things in the street, you know that in Barcelona there is day in the week that you can leave your old furniture or what you have in your house that you don't use. And I always pick things like furniture, and there was always a lot of books. So I started to pick the book from the street, and I said, well, that would be good to use them for something else.
That's just an interesting idea, because people end up wearing a story, on their hand or whatever. It's very cool.
Yeah, exactly. At the end, it's got a symbolic part and a very romantic part. It's very symbolic because you can't really read anything on a ring, you can't read the word. But you know that it has been made from a book that maybe you cherish, or a book who's got a big significance for the couple. It's a nice idea.
So resin and these books, and I know you work with metal, furniture you find on the street. What other kinds of tools do you need to do what you do? In your studio, what's a typical afternoon like if you're working on a piece?
So I've got all the typical tools of jewels, the table, a very specific table, and all the tools that we need for the metal. I have to, do you say
Solder. Yeah.
And then I've got all the parts for the book. I've got the resin, because it's a layer of pages with resin all pressed together, very hard. So at the end, when it's dry, you've got like if it was plywood, it's very hard to work with that. So I've got all the tools to cut and to sand and everything. So yeah, I've got a big range of tools.
And if you share your studio with other people, does that inspire you, or is that sometimes complicated because you have all these artists in the same space?
It's always very complicated to share a space with other people. Yeah. It's I studied anthropology, but I still have trouble with other people. Everybody is a world in itself, so sometimes you find a way to work together. But we all have different schedule, so it's also nice because my work as an artist is very lonely in a way, which I love because I can be on my own all day and in my own world, and I don't have to worry about anything else. So I really love it. But sometimes it's really nice to have someone, even someone who's doing something completely different on the side. Let's face it, sometimes it's difficult to just get the motivation to go. It's not an office, you don't have like a schedule, so you have to do everything by yourself. To know that there is someone else, sometimes it can help you. So I quite like it.
If you get commissioned to do a piece, then that's one thing, and you follow a combination of your own style plus the needs of your customer. But if you're just looking for inspiration to create something new, do you tend to come across ideas, or do you go looking for your next project?
It depends. There is always a million of ideas. So it depends a little bit what you're feeling in the moment. But the thing is that actually the ideas come while you're working. I can have ideas, but until I start, I don't get to nothing. So I've got one idea, I write it down, and then I forget about it. And I've got another idea, and I write it down. And sometimes I come back to this box of ideas when I'm looking for something. But normally I start something, and then it changes in the middle, and then I get to some piece. I always start with a drawing, like a very simple drawing, and then I go directly to the metal because I find it easier to just manipulate, and then the metal make me change and go to another direction, and that's how I'm building the new pieces.
And why the mobiles? How did you develop those designs? And also, why did you decide to create art for people's homes, not just for their bodies?
As I told you, while I was making contemporary jewelry, I'm starting to get obsessed by the movement. I always had like little things that could move, and so I was working on the balance, and sometimes I wanted it to spin. And even if in contemporary jewelry it can be a big scale, you're still a little bit reduced. So I wanted to go a bit bigger, like more sculpture, because my work always has been like little sculpture, and I wanted to make it really more sculptural. And so it's very strange because I made this collection of earrings with brass and paper because the paper is really light, so I could make very big earrings. And from there, the shape, I just started to put them in mobile. I guess the mobile comes from the collection of paper jewelry actually, and now they are in brass and there is some part in paper. And I like the way that when I am making the mobile, the construction of the mobile, it comes from the body all the time. You have to find the balance with your body. Another way of putting myself into the work.
So, what is your favorite part of making a piece? Is it the actual sitting down with the tools and the metal and the paper and the resin, or is it seeing the reaction of people?
Yeah, it depends. For the mobile, my favorite part is when I'm building it. Like everything is already done, all the pieces are sanded and polished and everything nice. And then you build it and you find the balance of everything, and then you hung it up, and it's just like it starts moving freely, and that's a very peaceful moment. I love it. With the jewels, if it was a unique piece that I did for so long, it was more the moment of looking for something and trying to find this moment that you say, it's going this way, because it takes a long time to get to the point that you know that, okay, here I'm going this way. At the beginning, you just have some elements and you put elements, and then you change, and then it doesn't work, and you want to do that and it doesn't work. And at some point there is something very evident, which is, I wouldn't say orgasmic, but it's this high that you get, and you know, it's here, and then you just pull the cord and you go, that's a very good moment. And then the rings, the paper rings, or the earrings, yeah, it's more the reaction of the people when they wear them or as they put them for the first time. And yeah, I like this feeling. You're making things, and sometimes at some point, if you're in a market or someone comes to your shop to buy something, or someone send you a review or something, you get the impact of it, because all the rest, it's just you with your work and not knowing what is going to happen. So yeah, it's very amazing when you see the reaction.
You go to markets, you have your studio, and you also have a store online on Etsy, right? So how do most of your customers find you, and how has the internet changed what you do? Has it changed it at all?
Oh yeah, it changed a lot. Actually, it changed completely my work. Just before the pandemic, I opened a shop here in Gràcia with my jewels and the mobile, and it was in July 2019. So in March 2020, I had to close, and because I had the workshop and the shop, I couldn't with everything. All the people in the workshop were going out also. Well, I had to change everything, so I stopped the shop and I came back to the workshop and my house. So I didn't have any income at this moment. I couldn't work like most of us. We had the same problem. So I said, well, I will start online. And I had this shop on Etsy, but I think in 1 year I sold like 2 pieces. So I was not very sure if it was going to work. But I said, well, I don't have any other options. So I started Etsy. I put the picture of the mobile and I started to learn how to sell online. And then I just enter in a rabbit hole, like I didn't know anything about anything, and every time I was trying to do something I was but I don't know how to do that either. So and I was opening every time and I need to learn this thing and this thing. Now my work, before I was designing and making and maybe selling on market also, but now I need to make the SEO of my website, I need to make the description, I had to find out how to send all the products. I have to work a little bit more on social media, Instagram and stuff. It doesn't have any end at the it's just 30% of my work is working on the workshop actually and making things, and all the rest is just managing. So it's very different. But at the same time, it gave me the opportunity to reach a public that I couldn't be able to reach here. I've been working with making things and selling things since 25 years, I think. But until now, it was always, you had to be on the market. You couldn't be in few places at the same time. And if in this market, your client was not there, you wouldn't sell anything. Now with internet, we can find the client. You've got more opportunities that we never had, actually. It's challenging, but it's very, very interesting. With Etsy, the thing is that people go on Etsy to find already handmade pieces. So they are already there for that. So you just have to rank well on Etsy. And then in my workshop in Barcelona, they make something every year called Tallers Oberts, where you are allowed to open your workshop. And there is a road around Barcelona where people can go and visit workshop. So from there is people who know me and they can come and buy, and making publicity or stuff like that. That's how you find people to buy your own product.
Do you find that Barcelona is a supportive community when it comes to art?
It's a place where there is a lot of artists. I wouldn't say that it's so supportive. There is some organization and there is some things that are done, but there is a lot of people. So at least you can easily know other people who are in the same industry as you are. That helps to know other people who are doing the same thing as you do. But really, really supportive. We will need some other kind of organization to really be supported, I would say.
In Barcelona, in the creative world, there seems to be a lot of talent and not a lot of infrastructure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now there was the pandemic, and now it's kind of post-pandemic, but things are still not 100% recovered, and the internet has changed how people work, like you said. So 2024, what is that looking like for you right now? Are you working on anything different? Are you looking for new inspiration? Are you going to go move to an island and sell only on the internet, or what? What are your plans?
Yeah, that's a good question actually, because it's true, we are post-pandemic, but I still struggle with the problem I had during the pandemic. And online, actually, this year was a bit tricky because we had like 2-3 years where the online was very hard. So all the numbers were not the right ones. It was completely different. So I can see that on Etsy, for example, this year is slower than the year before. So it's more complicated. And what I want to do in 2024, I am in the middle of not a crisis. I wouldn't say it's a crisis, but maybe I want to change. I find my myself in a moment that I need to change. I want to be lighter. The workshop is big. I've got so many tools. I need so much things to make it going. Maybe because I'm more than a middle-aged woman now. So maybe I need to go back to something a little bit more lighter and now warm everywhere, maybe. So I am starting to change a little bit my project, make things smaller again. And I've got a project completely different, but I'm very animated. I'm very happy with it. So I think there will be some change in 2024. It's already started, but nothing is completely up. But yeah, I'm in a moment of changing rumbo.
Actually, I think a lot of people feel that way right now because people thought they knew where they were going, and then the pandemic, and then after the pandemic. And I think a lot of people are very tired. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and I think yes. Or maybe we've got the need to really find something that works for us personally. I think we change, and I think I've changed, and maybe I don't want to do the same thing anymore, and I want to do something else, or maybe I want to get back to things that I worked in my life or I studied in my life and I never used, and maybe it's time to just put all the pieces together. I find myself in a moment that it's time to put all the pieces together and use all the skills I had during my life, because I didn't do just one thing. I've got a master in art therapy also. I did so many things that I need to put all the pieces together.
Well, you'll have to keep me informed on what you do. Thank you very much. It was great.
No, thank you. That was good and was very interesting also for me. Thank you very much for having me.
No, you're welcome. It was great. Thank you so much, Stéphanie, for sharing your work as well as the philosophy behind your work with us here on the Metropolitan Culture Corner. So if you live in or are passing through our beautiful city, you can reach out to Stéphanie and make an appointment with her to stop by her studio and check out her work in person. And in fact, you can check out the creations of most of our interviewees here on the Metropolitan Culture Corner because they all live and work right here in Barcelona. In case you don't know who else I'm talking about, you should check out the interviews from the past almost 4 years now. We've featured all kinds of fascinating people with really exciting careers and with inspiring perspectives on art, on culture, on food, on everything that basically makes up our human existence. So if you've missed any of these interviews dating back to March 2020, I would highly recommend taking the time to watch at least a few of them. And we will see you next month, same time, same YouTube channel. And thanks for continuing to support the local arts and culture scene.